Conservative new media viewers and Jeremy Lin fans around the world, what is up? It's me, Paul F. Villarreal, PFE. We're here to discuss the latest buzz about Jeremy Lin, Ronnie Price, starting point guard spot, Byron Scott, the media, etc. A lot of people are upset, I guess, because they saw that Mark Medina of the Los Angeles Daily News, he was on Time Warner Cable Sportsnet yesterday, I believe, and apparently said that if Ronnie Price were healthy, that Price would be starting rather than Jeremy Lin in this first game against Houston and apparently going forward. I did not see that clip, but I've heard people saying that, and I have no reason not to believe that. Now, I will say this, and I believe that the tweeter Jenny said this in a conversation with Mark. Mark is a reporter. He what he is told. He's not an opinion maker. That doesn't mean that he can't say his opinion. And I like Mark. I'm not taking any shots here at Mark. What I'm saying is Mark is just recounting what he's been told. So we can't really get mad at him. He's not saying, I think Ronnie Price should start. He's saying Ronnie Price would have started if he were healthy. So he's the messenger here. So we can't get mad at the messenger. That's the first thing I should say. Now, before I get into this too much, let me just say something that's relevant to the other videos. I received word from the person who does our translations that they are not going to be able to do that right now because they are busy with other things in their life. We completely understand that. We thank the person for everything that they've done, all the translations and all the hard work. We'll see if we can have somebody else help out with that as time goes along. I've had some ideas about that, but I can't promise anything right now because I'm extremely busy. And so, so for now, at least, we might not be able to translate some of the videos or all of them. And I know a lot of you really appreciate that, and I apologize, but we're all going to do the best we can, and there are other things that we have to get done, and this person has things to get done, and I totally respect that and understand that. And again, for us, I'm not capable of doing the translations. I mean, I could do them like in Google Translate or something, but the videos take me a long time to do, and I can't do everything. But we'll work as time goes on, and hopefully as things get a little more settled for myself, I'll try to work on that as soon as I can and if and when that I can. Okay, I have a whole bunch of notes here, and I'm just going to start going through them one by one on this entire subject. First of all, the concept, I understand why everybody's upset. I'm upset a little bit with this, although I'm not completely shocked by this. Here's the overall thing, and this is why people are mad. You have a guy in Ronnie Price who wasn't even a safe bet to make the team. So this is a guy that's third string or lower, and all of a sudden this guy that might get cut is starting over Jeremy Lin, which doesn't make sense on its face. It seems like a total smack in the face to Jeremy, and it looks like Houston all over again. So I know why people are mad here, and I get it, and it's not fair to Jeremy in terms of the perception and the story that it presents. It makes him look bad for people, particularly for haters that want to say, see, he got beaten out again, just like that guy on 710 radio said it might happen, or just like what happened in Houston, or just like what J-Lin said, or whatever it is. I get that. It's frustrating to me. I'm sure it's frustrating to Jeremy and his team, and it's frustrating to all of you. So I understand that. I don't like that either. And as I said before, I know that Jeremy and his team were not happy with Houston because there was no effort made, it seemed like, by the organization or by the media to clarify, hey, look, Jeremy's better than Patrick Beverley, even though we're going to choose to start Beverley because he's the right fit. And that's not fair. That's what leaves Jeremy hanging. Now, to be fair to the LA media, if you look at Eric Pincus, if you look at the Corey Hansford of Lakers Nation, both of those guys have said Jeremy's better than Ronnie Price. So it is a little bit different, even though for Houston trolls and Lin haters, they get to pretend that this proves Jeremy sucks and Ronnie's better than him, just like Patrick and blah, 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 blah. So I get the anger. I do. I understand it. But I'm going to tell you, hang in there a little bit, and I'll get to that later. Okay, number one, Byron Scott, in my opinion, and this is all my opinion, I'm not privy to any secret knowledge here, although I can see things that are happening here. Again, because of my working with the media and understanding basketball and basketball politics and media politics, I know some of what goes on better than a lot of people would. Or at least I can deduce it better than many people could who don't know those things. Byron Scott was brought in my opinion, for a couple reasons. But one of the main reasons was because Kobe wanted him as the coach. Kobe was letting it be known during this past summer that he supported Byron Scott as the coach. Now, if you don't know about the Lakers and what happened last year, that may fill you in quickly. Actually, it's not last year, it's the last couple of years. Kobe and Mike D'Antoni had a big falling out. Mike D'Antoni was the former coach of the Lakers. And there were a lot of people who blamed Mike D'Antoni for Kobe tearing his Achilles. Kobe didn't like playing Mike D'Antoni's style of basketball. Particularly, in my opinion, he didn't like the fast pace that Mike D'Antoni played at. Well, who's a player that flourished under Mike D'Antoni's system? Oh yeah, Jeremy Lin. So that just because Jeremy's tied with Mike, that doesn't mean Kobe would dislike him. But we're talking about playing styles here. And I'll get more to that in a second. But the point is, Byron Scott was partly brought in to please Kobe Bryant and to make the end of Kobe's career work for Kobe personally, so that he's getting along with the coach rather than not getting along with him, and work for Kobe's physical capabilities, mean slower pace. Okay? That's has to be understood here. I've told you guys before, and I think it's starting to become clearer for many of you, this team right now, this organization is all about Kobe. And if you read the ESPN piece from Henry Abbott that came out a week ago or so that caused so much of a stir, Not everybody's happy with that, probably, in the organization. And I think that's probably true. But that's what it is. And as long as Kobe's there and Kobe's healthy, that's what it's going to be. This was the fear that many of us had. Can Jeremy coexist with Kobe? First, I didn't think it would work. Then I thought it would work. Now maybe it won't work to the extent that we would like it to because of playing styles and etc. Now, what you have to understand, the people involved, the organization, the front office, the coaches, and the media, and I'm talking about media that actually works with the Lakers, not media on a radio show that may or may not talk with the Lakers much, that just have their own agenda. Remember how we talked about with Clutch and the Rockets? The media has to do what the organization wants it to do. They have to follow the company line. If they don't follow the company line, they might not get the extent of the access that they would like. In other words, you want to stay on the good side of the team. So, even if there are different factions in the Lakers who may not be fully on board with Kobe, the decision has been made that this is the Kobe show for the next 2 years, as long as he's healthy. Or maybe it's 3 years if he plays another year. And that's what's going to rule the day. Byron Scott is there because of Kobe. That's what this is. So, in a certain sense, Kobe is James Harden. He's much more mature than James Harden, in my opinion. He's a much better player than James Harden, or at least his skill level is higher than James Harden's. But Kobe wants to do what he wants to do. Kobe has a gigantic ego. You have to know that. And I like Kobe. I respect Kobe a lot. I do. Kobe's very strong-willed, and he wants to preserve and present a particular image. Kobe wants to go out on his terms. That means it's the Kobe show. What it was said in the article by ESPN is that Kobe wants to win, but he wants to win his way, which means Kobe is the star of the show. And that's important to understand. Like we said, there were politics on the Rockets. There were politics on the Knicks. And there are politics on the Lakers. And unfortunately, and this is truly unfortunate, Jeremy is getting the short end of the stick in all three of those situations. It's not his fault. He doesn't deserve it. But it happens. It makes me furious. But this is the reality of what happens. Not everything happens in this world based on merit. Not everything happens as it should happen. So you got to work with that. One of the things that was great for Jeremy, and he mentioned this being in Houston, and he basically said he wasn't sure if he got a fair shake in Houston. I can answer that for him. He didn't get a fair shake. And I'm glad that Mark asked him that question because it's a good question. One of the things that Jeremy learned in Houston is about the politics of basketball. Now, he learned it a little bit in New York, but then he and his team thought that he was going to go to Houston and he was going to be the man. And that's what was told to him. But he wasn't the man. Why? Because the team and wheeling, dealing with Morey got Harden. And so everything changed. And the script changed, and what was told to Jeremy went away. Just the same way that it went away for Omer Asik when the team got Dwight Howard. Because Omer was going to start. He was going to have a chance to do his thing until he didn't. So when Jeremy talked about Houston, and he said different things, he said he had friends on the team, whatever. The two entities that I noticed that he did not mention or praise was the media in Houston or Daryl Morey. So draw your own conclusions there. That's what I would say. Kobe likes Jeremy, and Jeremy likes Kobe. But that doesn't mean that Kobe doesn't want to be Kobe. I mentioned this the other day in the Phoenix video. When the team was playing Phoenix and Jeremy was in Linsanity mode in the fourth quarter or whatever, I think the team was winning or they had come back or whatever it was. What happened? Kobe came back into the game with about 6 minutes left, and Kobe took over the offense, even though Linsanity had just been going and it hadn't stopped. I said, get ready for this because this is what's going to happen. Even if it shouldn't happen, it's going to happen. This power struggle between Kobe and anybody else on the Lakers has been going on for a very long time. This is beyond Jeremy. So this is what I'm telling you for Lin fans who don't know about the Lakers situation. What the article in ESPN was talking about was this. This was the whole thing about the people want to play with Kobe. Because it's about Kobe. And Kobe's going to take the important shots. And Kobe's going to be the one that led the team in points. Kobe's going to be the one that got the team the win. And that's what we saw in the Phoenix game. And that was a preview. But Kobe isn't going to play forever. Look, I like Kobe, and I hope Kobe stays healthy. He's had a very difficult time staying healthy the recent years because he's getting to a point in his mileage with his body, in my opinion, where it's going to be very difficult for him to stay healthy, no matter what pace he plays at. But this is why they're talking about a minutes restriction, how many minutes he can play, taking more rest to try to preserve him. In my opinion, there is almost zero chance that Kobe will play more than 3 more years. My guess is he'll retire at the end of 2 years. But maybe he can play 1 more year. Maybe. I think this situation for Jeremy is a really good one. This city is great for him. This market is great for him. The team likes him. I'm sure the front office likes him. I'm almost positive of that. That's why they got him. I think it's probably going to be in Jeremy's best interest to stay with this organization, even if he's got to take a back seat for now. Even if you got to put up with the nonsense and Houston trolls coming, Ronnie Price beat out Jeremy just like Patrick, and this type of stuff. What's good about Houston, as I said, is Jeremy learned about the politics of basketball more and more. He's ready for this now. He's not going to be fazed by this. He might not like it, and that's good. You know, have confidence. Feel like you should be starting. But he can roll with it. He knows Ronnie's not making the decision, just like Patrick didn't make the decision. That's why I don't have any problem with Patrick. Look, there was 1 or 2 things Patrick did with Jeremy I didn't like. I think he got a little too caught up in swag ball culture. But Patrick's a good dude. And I think Patrick had some people in his ear that weren't Jeremy Lin fans. Let's just put it that way. But overall, Patrick's a good guy. And Patrick and Jeremy like each other from everything I know. Same with Ronnie and Jeremy. And honestly, to be honest with you, same with Kobe and Jeremy. This is the way Kobe is. And in my honest opinion, this is why he has issues with people. Because he is, as he says, he's the dog that's going to eat first. That's just how he is. He's just that's the way his mentality is. And he thinks he should eat first all the time, no matter what. That's how he is. So this is much larger than Jeremy. So that's kind of the full overview here. So Byron Scott is going to fall in with that, in my opinion. The media is going to do what they're told. They're going to tell you what they're being told by Byron Scott or people close to Byron Scott, assistant coaches. Now they have to sell that. Maybe they have to make the fans buy that the same way that the Houston media did. Although not to the same extent. I think the Houston media was a bit more disingenuous, in my opinion. Again, I think the LA media has been fair. Or mostly fair. Not everybody, but for the most part, quite fair. But they still have to follow the company line. Or most of them do, unless they're being contrarians. There is somebody that works in the LA media. He's still in the LA media. He used to work at the LA Times. I want to say is with the Orange County Register now, named T.J. Simers. T.J. Simers is a contrarian. He is a troll, almost. He's somebody, if all the media are following the company line, he'll go against the company line on purpose. Okay? The media has to do their job. You can't lose access. You can't fall out of favor. Just do it fairly. And I didn't think that was done in Houston. And that was a big part of the problem. What I've seen from the LA media, the vast majority of them, they've been fair. Not all of them, but most of them. So, again, this is not Houston. So we have to let that go to a certain extent. Now, I also said that Kobe isn't James Harden, and he's not, for a number of reasons. One thing about Kobe is he's much more media savvy than James Harden. He's not stupid enough to rip Jeremy Lin in the media or take shots at him publicly like maybe Harden would. He's not stupid enough to yell at Jeremy Lin on the court like Harden did. Why? Because one, Kobe's very much interested in protecting his image. Number two, Kobe's huge in Asia. Last thing that he wants to be seen doing is yelling at the most prominent Asian in the NBA, who's beloved in Taiwan, China, and all over the world. He's not going to do that. And that's good. The bad side of that is, if Kobe doesn't want to play with Jeremy Lin, you're never going to know that because he won't tell you that in public because he's too smart to do that. So you have to know that. Again, Kobe understands the media and how to work the media, and so that's the good and the bad of it. He's not going to make Jeremy look bad publicly, no matter what he thinks. Like I said, I think Kobe likes and respects Jeremy a lot. I really do. But again, Kobe is about Kobe. And to be honest with you, many stars are like this. Just Kobe's a bigger star than most stars, and he's near the end of his career, and he's even more like this than most stars are. So that's just who he is, whether you like it or don't like it. And there are a lot of fans who are emotionally invested in Kobe. And to be quite honest with you, many of those fans aren't fans of Jeremy Lin. So they're more than happy to see Jeremy Lin put on the sidelines so that Kobe can shine. And that's the truth. That's what it is. Okay. As I said, Kobe does not want to play the game at the pace that Jeremy Lin plays it at often. What have we heard during this entire training camp and preseason? Jeremy's fast. Kobe, Jeremy's faster than I thought he was, as I put up on Twitter. What have people said about Jeremy? He's great in transition. He's good at pushing the ball. Well, as I mentioned, that's how Mike D'Antoni played, and Kobe didn't like playing that way because he's old. His mileage is up, so that style isn't going to work for him. And that's another reason why Jeremy might not be with the starting unit. Now, I said this before. So when Kobe is complimenting Jeremy and saying he's faster than I thought, it's also, it might be too fast for the guy that's trying to keep his legs underneath him for an entire season and not get hurt. This is a very important season for Kobe. In some respects, I think this is his last important season. Why? Because he's trying to make a successful comeback from his injuries, which he tried to do last year and didn't work. He's going to pass Michael Jordan in scoring on the all-time scoring mark list. And if he stays healthy, probably somewhere around Christmas. He has a documentary coming out in November on Showtime. This is an important year for Kobe. He doesn't want it messed up because of Jeremy or anybody else. It's not just Jeremy. It could be anybody. So, as I said earlier, even if the front office or part of it aren't the biggest Kobe fans in the world, they're going to let him do this, which is basically what the ESPN article was saying. Okay, we'll let this go. And to be quite honest and to be fair to Kobe and his fans, Kobe's made the front office a whole bunch of money. So they're okay letting it be the Kobe show, and they're going to make a whole bunch of money off the Kobe show. So this is what it is. This is the politics and the economics of the NBA and the economics and politics of the Lakers. So this is what it is. And like I said, a lot of people don't know this. Look, this happens in all walks of life. It happens in getting into college. It happens in getting promoted at work. It happens in everything. There's always politics involved, even if it shouldn't be. It's very rare to have a pure meritocracy where if you're the best, you get to play. If you're the best, you get promoted. If you're the best, you get into Yale or wherever. It doesn't always work like that, at least not right now. And it's never going to work like that completely. And again, Jeremy is more at peace with that now after what happened in Houston. And like I said, you don't want to let it beat you mentally, but you want to roll with it. Okay, I get it. I understand. And I'm going to keep doing my thing. And I'm going to make my $15 million this year. And I'm going to bide my time, which is what he did in Houston. And remember, it took Jeremy time to do that. He was mad. He wanted to prove the haters wrong. He wanted to shut people up. And it was coming out as anxiety. Well, don't just think Jeremy's a nervous guy. Now, some of that anxiety might have been anger that was transformed into a different emotion. If I were him, I would have been pissed. I can tell you that right now. This is what it is. This is how life works. Life doesn't end in the NBA. There's still all of these dynamics at play. There will be people who will say Price beat out Lin. Just ignore them. Just ignore them. Don't pay any attention to that. The Lakers, as I said, they do like Jeremy Lin. I think that is clear. I think that's why they got him. I think it's been very evident in this preseason what Jeremy can do. That hasn't been lost on anybody. But remember, for now, it's the Kobe show. But that's only for now. That might change. Oh, it will change relatively soon. And hopefully, but if Kobe gets hurt again, then it's really going to change quick. Because then your best offensive player becomes Jeremy Lin with Steve Nash out. And Jeremy's a better offensive player than Nick Young is because he can create for himself better than Nick Young can. And I like Nick. And Nick's a great shooter. And he's a streaky guy. When he's hot, he's unstoppable. He can't dribble as well as Jeremy can. Now, Jeremy can't shoot as well as Nick can, but Jeremy can get to the basket almost at will. Much better than Nick Young can. I do believe, and I apologize, I will repeat myself somewhat here because I've already kind of given my little monologue, and now I'm going through my notes. Some of there will be a little repetition. I'll try to cut it down as much as I can. I do believe Jeremy should stay in Los Angeles, based on everything we know now. Because, again, it's Kobe for now. Kobe's not going to be there forever. Jeremy's still got a good amount of time left in his career. Kobe doesn't. Well, what comes after Kobe? Jeremy can be part of what comes after Kobe. The reason that I know, or that I believe, a lot of this has to do with Kobe is because Mark Medina said that Ronnie Price would not have started over Steve Nash. Well, then you're like, well, I thought it was because of defense. Well, Steve Nash doesn't play good defense. Right, but what can Steve Nash do that Jeremy can't do? The thinking is that Steve Nash can play better in the half-court offense than Jeremy can. Number one. Number two, Steve is on board with Kobe. They have a rapport, and so Steve knows it's the Kobe show, whereas maybe Jeremy, as a guy new coming in, might not know that. So Kobe might have a better chemistry with Steve than he does with Jeremy because they played together, and Kobe might feel better that Steve's going to defer to him than Jeremy. Number three, Steve's old. So Steve's not going to want to run, which is not what Kobe wants to do either. Okay? That's the tip-off to me that this is about Kobe. I'm not saying Steve shouldn't start ahead of Jeremy or whatever, but I'm saying if it's about defense, then Steve's not starting in front of Jeremy. But because Steve supposedly would have started before, this isn't about defense. This is about fit. This is about playing style. This is about speed and slow ball. That's what this is about, in my opinion. So, Ronnie Price then does become a version of Beverly. As I mentioned before, Beverly's a better player than Ronnie Price is. He has more potential, he has more impact, but he kind of fulfills the same role, which is get out of the way on offense and cover me on defense. So Patrick Beverly, sometimes you're going to have to guard James Harden's man because James Harden isn't guarding anybody. Ronnie Price is a defensive player who's not looking to score a lot. Kobe has declined substantially on defense. As whatever he's declined to on offense, he's declined much more on defense, just because of the mileage and because of the injury. He's had some really just very difficult moments this preseason on defense, and that's where it's going to be. If Kobe has to make a decision between where his energy is going to be, it's going to be on offense, as I've talked about in other videos. So Ronnie Price fits that scenario better, the same way that Ronnie Price fit the scenario, Patrick Beverly fit the scenario better in Houston. And those are the politics. James Harden's the star and Kobe's the star. For now. So remember that. For now. The anybody but Jeremy crew is out in full force. They're on the sites. They're trolling you. They're laughing at you. They're picking at you. You know who they are. Again, leave them alone. Don't respond to them. Jeremy is doing what he needs to do. If you listen to what Jeremy said, he compared being in Houston to being in the D-League. He's grown. He's learned. He's improving. He's still developing as a player. We'll let him continue to develop. Even if he is in the bench role again, he's still developing. As long as he continues to develop, I don't care. I'm not happy, but I'm not going to get twisted and turned by it. He's improving and getting better, and he's happier. That's it. That's good enough. I would imagine Jeremy's not happy. I'm sure he's very upset in the inside. If I was him, I would be mad. But again, what do you do with it? You can't throw a tantrum. You can't sit out like Omar Ashik did. That doesn't do anything. That's not going to change the situation. It makes you look bad, which is why we're glad that Jeremy handled things well in Houston. And this is why I tell people on Twitter, if you go around and you're talking to reporters and badgering reporters, look, it doesn't mean you can't make your opinion known. But the reporters don't control anything. Now, they control the narrative, but they're not making the decisions. And they're not going to make the decisions. And they don't have the ability or the power to wage propaganda campaigns in their jobs. If they do that, they're going to fall out of favor. They have to stay in favor. They have to keep their jobs. That doesn't mean they can't say whatever. But what I would say is, if you want to say something, you can say something to reporters, sure. If somebody offers an opinion, then you can definitely say something. If they're just telling facts, that's a different thing. Tell it to the Lakers. Send it to the @Lakers Twitter. Send it to Jeannie Buss. Send it to other people that are directly tied with the organization. Send it emails to the Lakers. That's who you need to tell, because that can have an impact. And as we do all the time, put the facts out. Put the stats out. As I did yesterday with 8 or so tweets about Jeremy Lin compared to Ronnie Price. Make sure that the truth is known, regardless of what's happening. That's the way you get it done. And as I had said, take it to the Lakers. Tell the Lakers. Make sure the Lakers know. If you tell the reporters, the Lakers may or may not find out. Put #Lakers, tweet it to the Lakers. Send emails to the Lakers, and I can't tell you the email address to send it to because I don't know it. They're the ones that need to know. They're the ones that, if you want to put pressure on somebody, put it on them. That's my opinion. Now, having said all of that, I still will repeat this, and I've said this before. Jeremy should work to become more intense and aggressive on defense. We've talked about this. Kobe talked about it. Jeremy did very well with this, I thought, in the last game. Worked to change the referee's perception of you. Work to be more physical. Ronnie's pretty physical on defense. Beverly's pretty physical. Jeremy, as we know, often gives off this impression, or people buy into the perception, whether it's true or not, that he's not intense and he's not competitive and he doesn't care. And Patrick Beverly's so intense. He's got swag, right, Mikhail? Jeremy can do a better job of being intense. Jeremy's a nice guy. He's comes from a good background. I don't mean it from super money, because his family didn't have a lot of money for a long time. But he comes from an educated background, nice, good values and everything. He doesn't have a lot of street in him. Let me put it that way. Which, that's not a bad thing. It's not good or bad. Anybody can be whatever. I'm not evaluating that here. But sometimes coaches or fans or whatever will see Patrick Beverley waving his arms and everything, and they think he's intense. Jeremy's not. Jeremy's meek. All this stuff. I'm not telling Jeremy to spend energy to appear intense when he's not. Don't wave your arms and try to imitate Beverly's super, pretend ferocity. I do think Jeremy can get more physical and intense and aggressive on defense. And it's not his nature. He's aggressive on offense. And he's aggressive on defense in terms of steals and things like that. Still think he can get more aggressive one-on-one in defense. And that can help him continue to educate the referees about how you're going to play now. So that you can get away with some of the physical play that guys like Price and Beverly are getting away with, and that you're not getting away with. And again, a lot of this is not Jeremy's fault at all. It's a perception issue. The Asian kid is meek, or whatever the hell you want to call it. Whatever labeling you want to put on it. And that's not fair. It isn't. It's not fair at all. But he can still get better at it. That's probably, in looking at his game from an overall perspective, he did great this preseason. He had a little turnover bundle action there at the end of the preseason, but he still played well, and his ratio was still very good. Turnovers, assist to turnovers. That's probably what I would tell him to do, maybe most of all. Work on, not on your defense. His defense is good. Work on being more aggressive on defense and being more physical on defense and imposing your will on defense one-on-one. That's what I would tell him to do. That's one of the things I would tell him to work on the most right now, because it's something that's holding him back, fairly or not. The perception of his defensive weaknesses is holding him back. Or that's what people are saying publicly, whether that's the truth or not. So I would tell him to do that. And he's doing it. He said he's working on it. And that's exactly what Kobe told him to do. And Kobe's right about that. Obviously, work on your three-pointers, work on cutting on turnovers, cutting them down, etc. But work on the aggressive one-on-one defense. Look, Jeremy's a big dude, and he doesn't have super lateral speed. Little guys like Isaiah Thomas are going to beat him, as just the way that Isaiah is going to beat a whole bunch of people off the dribble. And Jeremy's going to recover and do a good job on that and everything. Okay? Work on being more physical on defense. Work on letting your competitiveness come out on defense in a one-on-one situation. That's what I would tell him to do. He's doing better with that on offense. Now it's time to do it on defense. Jeremy has the size and the strength to impose his will on offensive players at times, which, again, to be fair, is what Kobe said, and he's right. But Kobe gets away with all kinds of physical play. He does. It's time for Jeremy to start working on that himself. And that's what I would tell him to do. And again, he's working on this. And Dave Miller, Coach Miller, said, hey, people shouldn't be talking about who should start. The coaches know they're at practice. You're not at practice, blah, 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 blah. Well, do it at practice, too. I'm not at practice. I wasn't at the Rockets' practices. And the media wasn't at many practices either, because they only get to see the very ends of practices. So it's not like everybody in the media is at the practices either. But if there's an issue there, because this was supposedly the case with Houston too, where maybe there's a lack of confidence or a lack of competitiveness or a lack of aggressiveness, then he needs to fix that. Maybe that's the last thing Jeremy needs to fix. Now, again, we're not trying to turn Jeremy into a feral wolf or some force of terror here. But let it out a little bit more. Be a little more aggressive in practice, in games, on defense. If it's holding you back, then you got to change it. And that, like I said, I think Jeremy's fixed and worked on much of this. He's fixed and worked on most of his issues. Maybe this is one of the last things you got to fix. Like I said, it seems to be hurting him, or that's the excuse anyway. But if people keep saying it, then there's probably something to it, even if it's not completely fair. I don't want to be crude about this, but I said put a body on somebody. Put a body on somebody. Make somebody think twice about coming or driving past you. Do it in a clean way. But if you hear a lot of players that have played in the 80s or whatever, they'll say, yeah, in my day, we would have put the guy on the ground. Well, meaning, if this guy's going off on offense, we're going to knock him down. Make him think about it a little bit. Get physical. You can't do that as much in today's NBA, but you can still do things. And again, if Jeremy needs to get beyond that, then work on it. He's definitely got the physical ability to do it. And again, I thought he did well with it against Isaiah Thomas. You saw Isaiah Thomas crying to the refs. Jeremy is putting a good body on him. Just do it, because as I said, Jeremy's got to get respect from his coaches and from players. Guys come and they want to go hard at Jeremy. They want to make him look bad. They want to make the Harvard guy look bad. And they're great and he's not. Take it personally. Take it personally. Learn from Kobe. Again, we don't have to turn Jeremy's mind into Kobe's mind, but there's a continuum. There's point A and point B. A is Jeremy, B is Kobe. Go a little bit more towards B. And the behavior on the court. Like I said, maybe that's one of the last aspects that Jeremy needs to begin to work on. He's worked on his three. He's worked on the left hand. He's worked on cutting turnovers. He's worked on everything else. Maybe now it's time to work more on that. Maybe that's the last piece that he needs to do. I mentioned Coach Miller before, Coach Dave Miller. I've talked to him on Twitter. He seems like a nice guy. He also seems like there are certain media personalities that kind of go with the flow, and they kind of have their own shtick, their own little routine. I think Coach Miller might be a little bit like that. I like him. He seems like a nice guy, but everybody's style is different, and I don't know if Coach Miller's style is going to work for everybody. That's a Jeremy Lin fan. I also would tell you something similar with Chris Palmer. I promoted Chris Palmer to you guys, and I like him, and he can be a kind of, I think, he's definitely a Kobe guy, and I think he's kind of a ride the bandwagon type of a guy. So I'd tell you that about both of those two, and but again, I like both of them, which is why I've said nice things and talked about them on Twitter. But I'm just telling you what I've observed and in person understanding the media. I like Mark Medina. I do. I think Mark's look. None of these guys is perfect, and every these guys they have to answer to the team. They've got to answer to their bosses. I think Mark's legit. I think Mark is somebody who is pretty objective, and he's just going to report mostly what he's told. He's less of, that doesn't mean he doesn't have his own opinion. Of course he does, but I think Mark's more just kind of give you what he's hearing. So I like him. I know some of you guys aren't sure about him, but I like his work. I've always liked his work. I've read his stuff from, I don't know, several years at least. The guy from the Orange County Register, Bill Oram, I believe, not sure he's the biggest Jeremy Lin fan in the world. That's just my own observation quickly, although I could be wrong about that. Just again, these are my own opinions. I'm not trying to indict anybody here or whatever. There's a guy on ESPN 710, something like Kelvin Washington or something. Apparently, he's not a big Jeremy Lin fan. J-Lin Rose isn't the biggest Jeremy Lin fan in the world. Anybody who's coming from the angle of attacking Jeremy Lin's defense, be suspect of them. And that means everybody, including people like Zach Lowe, who is a very well-respected guy who I like him. He does good work. But anybody that's really harping on that, I'm going to tell you, they probably don't know the facts very well, because the advanced stats, it doesn't hold up. Again, I'm not saying Jeremy doesn't have defensive issues. He does, or he can, but the stats don't hold up. So beware of the eye test, or, okay, the guy drove around Jeremy easier than he drove around Ronnie Price, so Jeremy sucks on defense. That's lazy analysis, and that's usually agenda analysis. So I'll tell you that right now. Again, be careful or be thoughtful when talking with the reporters on Twitter, because at some point the reporters will just get sick of you. If you're just yelling at them or whatever, they don't have to deal with you. That doesn't mean you don't have a right to tell them what you think. But if you just over and over again, don't curse, this type of stuff. That's just my advice. If you want them to listen to you. People say, oh, you're too nice, Paul. You're too subtle. You need to be more aggressive. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Take it from somebody who's worked in PR and done different things. I used to be about as aggressive as you can imagine. Right in your face. It doesn't work, which is why I don't do it anymore. Not because I'm afraid. I'm afraid to disturb reporter A. I'm not afraid of anything. But if I yell at reporter A and then I curse at them, and they're not going to listen to me. They're going to block me. And then I don't get to talk to them at all. So, tactics. You have to think about tactics and strategy. It might feel great to vent it all out, but then you might lose your ability to have the person listen to you. And that's just how it is. They have the microphone. So, as I said, make your own microphone. But if you don't have your own microphone, or they have a bigger microphone than you got to work with that. You got to respect that and find a way to get them to listen to you. And that's the way why I do what I do. Again, I'm not perfect either, and I've yelled at people. But just present your argument, present your statistics. And remember, they're not making the decisions. They're not making the decisions, although, yes, they are informing and shaping the perceptions of fans. So that is true. Jeremy's not going to be held down. He's too good to be held down. So hang in there. There's a lot of neutral Lakers fans that were willing to give Jeremy a chance who have seen how good he is this preseason. Now, again, there are people who don't want to like him, and they're never going to like him no matter what. If he has 19 points and 7 assists, I still don't like him. Those people, don't worry about them because you can't change them no matter what. But many people who are willing to be convinced have been convinced. So, Jeremy, his abilities will shine through. Yeah, I mentioned the different. Some people, I mentioned different reporters. Somebody mentioned that I mentioned him earlier as well, Corey Hansford of Lakers Nation, and they said he's not a Lin fan. I don't know him. Now, I know he thought Price should start over Lin for defense. Look, you have to understand, and I don't know him. I don't know any of his work at all. I only read that article. I've never even heard of him. Many people who cover the game don't really know the game. I'm not saying Corey doesn't know the game. Many people only go by what they hear or what they want rather than really understanding things. So there will be reporters who write stuff that they just picked up the narrative. They don't have the ability or the insight to figure it out for themselves, and so they write that. So you have to try to discern between who has an agenda and who's just kind of not really the best basketball mind. I don't know where Corey is. I'm not saying he's any of that. Maybe he's a brilliant basketball mind and he really believes that Ronnie should start over Jeremy. I don't know. But I just brought him up because I know people have said, hey, they're not thrilled by his viewpoints or whatever. I'm looking at the career steals per 36 minutes and for Jeremy and for Ronnie Price. The reason why we do per 36 rather than per game is because guys play different minutes, and so you want to make it a fair metric. I believe Ronnie Price's metric is 2.0 steals per 36. Jeremy's 1.8. Very close. They're both aggressive. Again, Jeremy's very aggressive with steals. Extremely aggressive. We know that the defensive ratings are, and Jeremy's is better. So they're fairly similar on stats. And I know somebody tweeted to Dave Miller, to Coach Miller, hey, look at these stats. And then Coach Miller said something like, well, we're talking about the stats now. Well, there aren't any stats now. I mean, there's a couple stats from preseason, but you have to go by something. You can't just that. I'm not buying that is probably the best way to say it. But the more that you come with facts, the more that you can change people's minds or expose when they are working from an agenda. But I give Ronnie the nod there. He does seem to have a slight edge over Jeremy. Again, my summary of this is a political issue. At least part of it is. I think this is a Kobe situation. And as I said, it's not going to be this way forever. So I would tell you, hang in there. People are saying they don't want to watch the games. They're not going to do this. They're going to boycott the Lakers. Don't do that. You still want to support Jeremy. Or, look, I can't tell anybody what to do. If you want to do that, okay. If you're going to do that, you make sure the Lakers know that. Like I said, you don't do it in silence. And don't do it and necessarily tell the reporter. You tell the Lakers. Because that's where the influence, that's where the leverage comes in at. Okay? But I would tell you, don't do it. Hang in there. Support Jeremy. Support the team. Let's see how this works out. No, Nash isn't playing, unfortunately. We don't know how long Kobe's going to hold up. So let's just see how things work out a little bit. And I'll say once again, do not respond to trolls. Don't even dignify them. The way that you get rid of trolls is ignoring them or reporting them or whatever. Now, having said that, I do think this is heavily a fit thing and a political thing and a Kobe thing. Jeremy does have chemistry with the second unit because he's played with them, like Ed Davis. He's starting to develop some chemistry with Clarkson and with Randall. So there is some truth to that. That's not a completely false argument. There's truth to that. I'm not saying that means Jeremy shouldn't start, but there's something to that, to be fair and to be honest about it. And finally, whatever politics are going on or could be going on for Byron Scott, he wants to win. Yes, he wants to do right by Kobe in his mind and in Kobe's mind, and he wants Kobe to outlast the whole season and not play at a fast pace that maybe Jeremy plays at. But he wants to win because he knows if he doesn't win, he's not sticking around. Kobe's not going to play forever. So if Byron doesn't win, he's not going to be at the coach. And I will say this, particularly for a team like the Lakers, where the talent is so-so. If your second unit isn't good, you're going to lose games. So as much as we don't want to hear the Manu Ginobili stuff or the James Harden in Oklahoma City, whatever it is, this happens all the time. You must have talent in your second unit. If not, you will lose. I can give you an example of this. The Cleveland Cavaliers, who are right now the Vegas favorites to win the title. There's discussion going on there about whether Dion Waiters, who's the starting shooting guard, should play with the second unit. Why? Because the second unit needs help. And Dion doesn't want to not start, kind of like Jeremy doesn't want to not start. But if the Cavaliers, if the second unit's weak, they're not winning a title. They're not going to have a chance to win a title. So the basketball reality is still both units must be good, or you can't have a massive imbalance. If you have a massive imbalance, then what happens is what happened to the Portland Trailblazers last year. Starters amazing, bench terrible. You can win some games. You can beat an overrated team like the Rockets, but then you're going to get crushed, which is what happened against the Spurs. They weren't deep enough, and they didn't have enough balance within the two units. So that's a valid concern. Even though, as Jeremy Lin fans, we don't necessarily want to hear that as regards to, well, we need Jeremy to make the second unit better. So that is about it. That's what I wanted to say. This is a long video. I know a lot of you are concerned. A lot of you are unhappy. You're happy Jeremy's starting, but you're not happy that he's starting only because Ronnie is hurt. You're concerned about, is Jeremy going to be in a Houston situation? All of this. This is why I made this video, to try to answer some of those concerns. Look, I'm excited about the game tomorrow. I want to beat down the Rockets. If we win by 50, I want to win by 60. So I just hope we win the game. And that would be a nice morality play outcome. Morality play meaning justice is served, so to speak, if the Lakers win. That would be the story. Anyway, Jeremy gets his revenge, and so does Kobe over the evil Harden, Dwight, and McMurray. I'm okay with everything right now. I am not going to freak out if Jeremy doesn't start, even though I'd like to see him start. I think Jeremy is ready to roll. Now, there's going to be times where Clarkson doesn't give him the ball, Randall doesn't give him the ball, this and that. It's not all going to be perfect, but I think Jeremy's comfortable. I think he feels good. I think he feels confident. And I think he's much more mentally prepared for this situation than he was in Houston. And he doesn't have the same feeling of being jilted that he might have had in Houston. He knows the situation. He knows it's Kobe's team and that things are going to be adapted around Kobe. So that doesn't mean he likes it, but I think he knows it. And I am in a situation with this squad where I just want them to win. It's not going to be easy for them to win this year. So if they win, then I'm okay with Jeremy coming off the bench. I couldn't really say that in Houston. In Houston, I expected them to win. Now, I don't expect them to win as much. So if Byron puts Jeremy on the bench and the team wins, then I'm okay. Because they need to win. And that rubs off positively on everybody. I think Jeremy will, there's a good chance he'll eventually start more for this team. And like I said, I think there's a very good chance he's going to stay with this team and that it's going to be a good situation for him in the years to come. So, okay, that is it. Come and join us on Twitter. Come and join us on our Facebook group. I'll put information for that in the video description below the video player. That is it for now. We will talk to you again soon, and look for me in the comments and on Twitter. I hope this answers your questions. Take care. Have a great day, a great night, wherever you are around the world when you watch this video.